Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to our Blue Christmas service for this year. Upon waking this morning, we see something of a white Christmas outside, but not everyone's celebrating a white Christmas this year. Some of us have more of a blue Christmas. Losses, sadness is part of our season as much as joy and rejoicing. We come to remember the good and the sad. We come to know that we are not alone. We come to worship. We come to be reassured that life goes on and God is with us. On behalf of the sponsoring and supporting organizations, I want to say that we understand that your holidays may be different this year. They're different for everyone, actually, and we want to support you during this time. Be sure and call on any of us, your pastors or some of the others, the funeral homes, as we can help you in this season. Now, the bulletin will help you through most of the service, but there will be some things you'll want to watch on the screen here. The songs will be up there, or you'll find them in your hymnal. If you did not select an ornament when you came in, either an angel or a cross, you'll want to go ahead and get one of those. And I suggest maybe during the solo, Madeline won't be offended by that, will you? Okay. If you didn't get one, if you go ahead and grab one off that table back there. If you find the service emotionally difficult as we remember and celebrate, don't be embarrassed. That's why we're here, because it's a hard time. And we welcome you to just be who you are in this time. Finally, I hope you stay for hot drinks and cookies afterwards. Take the opportunity to find a friend who's also having a blue Christmas this year. Let's join together in the greeting, which is on the screen. Lord, help us feel your presence. Help us feel your presence with us in this place. Help us to trust that we are not alone. We know that even darkness is not dark for you. For you, the night is as bright as day, for the darkness is as light to you. Bring light to our darkness, O God. Amen. Madeline Parrott's going to share with us.
Frosty I'm Pastor Ricky Sorensen from First Presbyterian Church. Our acknowledgement of sorrow from Scripture comes from Ruth, chapter 1, verses 1 through 9. I'll be reading from the NIV. In the days when the judges ruled, there was famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephraimites from Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died. And Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and me." May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud. Here ends our reading. Please join me in prayer. Lord, you know how our hearts are broken and how our voices tremble with grief and sorrow. Help us to pray with one heart and one voice through your holiness. Comfort, comfort, Lord, your people. Comfort those of us who sit in darkness, mourning our loved ones and friends, at a time when others are planning festivities. Be the balm of healing for our weary and wounded souls. We ask this, trusting in your promise to hear our workers whenever 2 or more are gathered in the name of your holy child, Jesus. Amen.
I wonder as I wander out under the sky, how Jesus the Savior did come for to die for poor unreaped people like you and like I wonder as I wander out under the sky. When Mary birthed Jesus, 'twas in a cow stall, with wise men and farmers and shepherds and all. But high from God's heaven a star's light did fall, and the promise of ages it then did reach.
We're all here for a different reason today. A different person, a different situation, a different feeling. I'd like you to take a moment to just pause and remember. Remember the person you lost this year or in years before. Remember the situation that causes you grief. A lost relationship, a lost job, a lost dream. Just hold on to that in your heart for a moment and remember. Mourning is taking the grief that's in our hearts and moving it outside of ourselves. We do that when we come to funerals or when we come to Blue Christmas services. I'd like to invite you to engage in just an act of mourning as we name those things that we've lost, those people that we miss. In just a moment, I'm going to indicate, and we'll all just say it together. You don't have to stand up by yourself or anything like that. Just take a moment to say the name or the situation that brings you to this place today. If you're ready, let's go ahead and do that. Let's speak the name of our loss. Richard. May you find hope as you remember and as you mourn.
Our next scripture comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew. It picks up immediately after the visit of the Magi or the wise men. When the Magi had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. One of my clearest Christmas memories comes from sometime when I was in junior high or early high school, sitting in the pew on a Christmas Eve at First United Methodist Church in Iowa City, in the middle of singing some carol, I don't remember which one anymore, and suddenly realizing that I was sad. And then realizing that this experience of being sad in the middle of a Christmas Eve service was not unusual for me. That I usually felt sad on the Christmas Eve service. And in that moment, I felt very much like I did not belong in that place. Because we're supposed to be happy and joyous. This is supposed to be this wonderful, joyful time. And everybody around me, or so I thought, was joyful and happy. And I couldn't figure out why I was sad. I had not lost someone that year. There had been no particularly terrible thing happening to me, but I was just sad. It took me several years to figure out what was going on. And there are a couple of pieces to that. One is that I am very sensitive to music, to the emotions that music evokes. My mother talks about having to be very careful about what television shows she had on when she was feeding me, because if the music was at all tense when I was an infant, I wouldn't eat. I'd just freeze up. So music has always evoked emotions into me. And then I realized, as I listened to Christmas carols, that even though in most of them the words are joyful, there are many of them that have tunes that are not so joyful. There are many of them that have tunes that are a bit mournful and sorrowful. And there are a few, like I Wonder As I Wander, that acknowledge that sadness up front. But even A Little Town of Bethlehem, which we'll sing in a bit, has this mournful aspect. And so part of why I felt sad that Christmas Eve, and so many Christmas Eves, was because it was in the music. But why is it in the music? What's it doing in the music? And that took me a few more years to figure out. And actually, in some ways, it took quite a while to figure out. After my husband and I were married, we somehow inherited or got or were given or something a statuette smaller than this one, but not unlike this one. The coloring was different. It's Mary holding baby Jesus while she's sitting on the donkey, and Joseph is standing beside her. And the first couple of years we had it, I didn't think anything of it. And then one year, I went, wait a minute. Jesus has already been born, because she's holding him in her arms on top of the donkey. This is not Mary and Joseph going to Bethlehem so Jesus can be born. This is Mary and Jesus and Joseph fleeing to Egypt, because Herod is about to kill every child under 2 in Bethlehem and around. This is a family fleeing for their life, and what they leave behind is great sorrow and mourning. The cries of Rachel, who's lost her children. Matthew quotes Jeremiah there and quotes an event many, many hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus, but it's echoed in this moment in Bethlehem that's filled with grief and sorrow. Sorrow and grief is part of the Christmas experience. It's part of the Christmas story. So it was really okay that I was sitting in that pew feeling sad. It didn't mean I wasn't feeling Christmas. It didn't mean I was somehow disconnected with the story or with what was going on. It meant I was very aware of the wider story of Christmas. And so I would invite you this Christmas and the Christmases to come to remember that whatever you're feeling, particularly if it's grief or sorrow, if you're finding yourself feeling like it doesn't fit in Christmas, it does. Because it was there in the first Christmas. It was there in the tears of the parents in Bethlehem. It was there in the fear and the grief of Mary and Joseph as they left everything they knew for fear of their life. That sadness and grief has a place in Christmas. It's not going to feel like what the world tells us Christmas is about. It's not going to feel joyful and wonderful and marvelous, but it's still part of Christmas. And so I invite you to be gentle with yourself this Christmas and the Christmases to come, to remember, as I couldn't remember all those years ago, that it's really okay if that's where you're at. And that it too has a place in Christmas. And I invite you in those moments to listen for those Christmas carols where maybe the words don't echo what you're feeling, but the music may. And know that you belong there, and that Christmas is also for you, just in a different way than it might be for others. May you be blessed by the presence of Christ in the midst of our grief and in all of our sorrow. Now I invite you to take the ornament, if you have an ornament. If you don't, you can just cup your hand. And I'd like you to hold it in your hands, whether it's the cross or an angel, or whether you're just cupping your hands together. And in the next few invite you to think about your loved one or the situation that's causing you sorrow, to think about what they've meant to you, what they've been to you, and see if you don't perhaps feel their presence. If you don't, that's okay. And in that moment, whatever you feel, welcome that as something that belongs in this Christmas season.
Let us pray. Lord, each of us comes bearing our own hurts, sorrows, and broken places. We bring before you, Lord, our personal wounds and the names of our loved ones who have gone before us. Your holy word often tells us how deeply you love each of us and how much you want to carry our pain. For you, dear God, wait patiently for us to respond to your voice, gently calling out, "Give me your pain, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Lord, let the lights of Christmas chase the darkness from our hearts and remind us that it is you who lights a candle in our darkness and holds us close until we are able to shine. Hold all who grieve close, dear Lord. Illuminate our darkness and heal the loneliness of our grief. Almighty God, lift our heavy sorrow and give us good hope in Jesus, so we may bravely walk our earthly way and look forward to a glad reunion in the life to come. Help us to believe where we have not seen, trusting you to lead us through our years. Bring us at last with all your saints into the joy of your home, through Jesus Christ, our Lord. And the people said, Amen.
I'm glad that you came today, and a special thank you to Pastor Sorensen and Pastor Hoover for being with us this afternoon and making this truly an ecumenical and a community service. May the hope of the Christ child sustain us through this darkness, that together we may shine again. Amen.